When most people talk about marriage, they talk about love, about that spark, that chemistry, that emotional rush you feel when you meet someone who just gets you. And yes, that's beautiful. But let's be honest, love alone doesn't sustain a lifelong partnership. It's a great start, it ignites the rocket, but without structure, direction, and purpose, even the most powerful launch ends up drifting aimlessly in space. That's why I say marriage has to be redefined beyond romance. It's not about finding someone who makes your heart race. It's about finding someone who can build with you, someone who's ready to co-create a future that actually means something. When I think about marriage, I think about partnership not in the soft, sentimental sense, but in the practical, mission-driven sense. You're essentially forming a company of two. You're merging lives, goals, and emotional economies. Every decision you make together, where you live, how you raise kids, how you spend money, how you spend your time, becomes a shared project. And if you don't share the same purpose, that company fails. The romance might have been real, but it's like having two pilots in the cockpit trying to fly in opposite directions. You won't get anywhere. The thing is, we've been conditioned by movies and social media to believe marriage is supposed to feel effortless. Like if it's meant to be, everything just flows. But real partnerships are engineered. They're designed with intention. They require emotional intelligence, patience, and a deep respect for growth. You're not marrying who someone is today, you're marrying who they're becoming. And that means you both have to be willing to evolve together, not just fall for a version of each other that fits neatly into the present. When you redefine marriage beyond romance, you stop asking, who makes me happiest right now, and start asking, who can I build something extraordinary with over the long term? You start to see that the person you marry isn't just your companion. They're your co-architect, your strategic ally, your emotional engineer. They're the one helping you design the blueprint of your life. And here's where it gets interesting. When you approach marriage that way, love doesn't fade. It deepens. It matures from an emotion into a commitment, from a feeling into a choice. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn more about each other's resilience, creativity, and capacity for growth. You stop chasing perfection and start focusing on progress. You stop fighting to be right and start striving to be better together. Think about it. If you're building something that's meant to last, you don't just use whatever materials feel good in the moment. You choose what's strong, what's reliable, what can withstand pressure. Marriage is no different. It requires foundations of trust, communication, and shared values. Romance is the spark, but those things are the infrastructure. And when you have that, the spark doesn't die, it becomes sustainable energy. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that marriage should be an escape from the world, when really it should be a launchpad into it. It's not about hiding away with your partner, it's about amplifying each other's impact. It's about saying, together we can do more, we can dream bigger, build stronger, reach further. That's what a redefined marriage looks like. It's love fused with purpose, emotion balanced by intellect, heart guided by vision. And yes, that kind of partnership requires effort. It's not romantic all the time. There will be friction, misunderstandings, even failures. But those aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of movement. They mean you're pushing, adapting, learning to operate as one system. The key is never to let ego get in the way of progress. If both people stay focused on the mission, on growing, creating, improving, then every challenge becomes fuel for evolution. So when I say I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me certain things, this is the foundation of that idea. Because before we even talk about the 5 things, there's one truth that underlies them all. Marriage must have meaning beyond emotion. It has to be built on shared intention, not temporary excitement. Falling in love is easy, that's gravity. But staying in love, building in love, that's propulsion. That's energy you have to keep generating together, day after day, through purpose, respect, and shared growth. That's what keeps the journey alive. Because in the end, the goal isn't just to find someone who completes you, it's to find someone who competes with you, to become better, who pushes you to expand your limits, and who believes that love isn't the destination, it's the fuel that gets you there. We live in a world where beauty gets way too much credit. Open your phone, scroll for 5 seconds, and you'll see thousands of faces filtered, perfected, curated to look flawless. It's easy to think that's what matters most, that's what lasts. But anyone who's ever built something meaningful knows Appearance might attract you, but it can't sustain you. In marriage, surface beauty is like the paint on a rocket. It might make it look good on launch day, but if the engineering underneath isn't stable, the whole thing will fall apart mid-flight. Emotional stability, that's the real beauty. It's what keeps a relationship grounded when everything else gets turbulent. Because no matter how attractive someone is, you can't build a future with chaos. You can't reason with someone who treats every disagreement like a war, or every moment of silence like rejection. You need a partner who can stay calm when things go wrong, who can think when emotions run high, and who doesn't mistake temporary frustration for failure. See, physical beauty might be the first thing that catches your attention, but emotional balance is what earns your respect. It's what allows trust to form. When someone can manage their emotions, when they can disagree without disrespect, when they can listen without reacting defensively, that's a level of maturity that builds safety. And safety is everything in a relationship. Without it, love becomes survival. You start walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong word will trigger another storm. But when you're with someone emotionally stable, even hard conversations become opportunities to understand each other better, not tear each other down. And this isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Emotional stability doesn't mean never getting upset or never feeling jealous. It means having the awareness and control to respond with intention instead of impulse. It's knowing that your partner is human, not a mind reader, and that every relationship requires grace. It's about creating space for both people to grow without constant fear of emotional explosions. The truth is, the world can be unpredictable. You'll face pressure, loss, unexpected turns, that's guaranteed. What matters is how you handle them together. You need a partner who won't collapse under emotional stress, who won't make every setback personal, who can be a calm center in the middle of chaos. Because emotional instability magnifies problems, while emotional stability solves them. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between panic and progress. Imagine being married to someone who, instead of escalating conflict, pauses to understand it, who doesn't play blame games but asks, how can we fix this? That kind of composure is rare and it's priceless. It creates peace, and peace is the soil where love actually grows. Because love can't thrive in constant tension. It needs stability to breathe. You can be with the most beautiful person in the world, but if they can't control their emotions, that beauty turns volatile. It becomes a distraction instead of a foundation. On the other hand, someone who's emotionally grounded can make even ordinary moments extraordinary. They bring a sense of calm that makes you feel at home, not because they never challenge you, but because they know how to handle conflict without destroying connection. And emotional stability isn't just about how someone treats you, it's about how they treat themselves. Do they take responsibility for their feelings? Do they reflect, grow, and learn from their mistakes? Or do they project, blame, and repeat the same patterns? A partner who's emotionally stable understands that love is not about control, it's about collaboration. They don't need to win arguments. They want to win with you. So, yes, I admire beauty. Everyone does. But I admire strength. More not the loud, visible kind, but the quiet strength it takes to stay kind when angry, patient when frustrated, and hopeful when things look uncertain. Because those are the moments that define character. When the excitement fades, when life gets difficult, when challenges come, emotional stability is what keeps love alive. It's the anchor that prevents your relationship from drifting. And let's be honest, we all change. Looks fade, faces age. Time leaves its mark on all of us. But emotional stability, when nurtured, only grows stronger. It deepens. It becomes wisdom. It becomes empathy. It becomes the force that turns two people into a team that can endure anything. So when I say I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me emotional stability, I don't mean she has to be perfect. I mean she has to be aware, grounded, and committed to growth. Because I'm not looking for a fairy tale, I'm looking for endurance. I'm not chasing a spark that burns fast. I'm building a flame that lasts. And in the end, it's simple. Beauty might catch my eye, but emotional stability will capture my life. You know, when we talk about love and relationships, respect is one of those words people throw around all the time, but very few actually understand what it really means. Respect isn't just saying please and thank you. It's not about politeness or surface-level gestures. Respect is about recognizing the other person as a complete human being, someone with their own mind, ambitions, fears, and flaws, and treating those things with care. Without respect, love becomes domination, and communication turns into competition. Mutual respect is the engine that keeps a relationship alive long after the emotions fluctuate. It's easy to love someone when everything's perfect, but respect is what keeps you steady when things get difficult, when you disagree, when you're under pressure, when you're both exhausted and frustrated. It's what allows you to say, I don't have to win this argument, I just need to understand you. Because when there's respect, there's space. Space for truth, for growth, for vulnerability. In a real partnership, respect means valuing the other person's perspective, even when you don't agree with it. It means listening, actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's realizing that your partner's emotions, ideas, and needs aren't threats to your authority. They're part of the shared equation. You can't demand respect and refuse to give it. It has to flow both ways. Because when respect becomes one-sided, love begins to suffocate. But there's another layer to this: accountability. And that's something too many people avoid because it's uncomfortable. Accountability means taking ownership of your words, your actions, and your energy. It's admitting when you're wrong without trying to twist the story. It's being strong enough to say, I hurt you, and that wasn't right, instead of pretending it didn't happen. In a healthy relationship, both people take responsibility not only for themselves, but for the emotional space they're creating together. See, accountability isn't about blame, it's about integrity. It's about being someone who stands behind their commitments, who doesn't make excuses or play victim when things go wrong. When both partners live with that mindset, trust grows naturally. You don't have to second-guess every word or question every intention, because you know you're both showing up honestly. And that's powerful, because love without accountability is chaos. You can't build anything that lasts on shifting ground. If one person is always apologizing while the other never changes, the foundation cracks. If one person is constantly explaining their worth while the other refuses to self-reflect, the relationship stops being a partnership, it becomes a performance. When there's mutual respect and accountability, the energy shifts. Conversations become collaboration instead of combat. You stop keeping score. You stop trying to prove who's right or who cares more. You start asking better questions like, how can we make this work? Or, what do you need from me to feel supported? And that's when love becomes powerful. That's when two people stop being opponents and start being allies. It also means respecting boundaries, not just physical ones, but emotional and mental boundaries too. Understanding that your partner needs time to recharge, that they have dreams independent of you, and that their individuality doesn't threaten your bond. In fact, it strengthens it. Because a strong relationship is built on two whole people choosing to share their lives, not two halves trying to complete each other. Accountability also means being transparent about who you are and what you want. If you promise honesty, deliver it. If you say you'll show up, show up. If you make a mistake, own it. The moment you start hiding behind pride or ego, the relationship begins to erode. And the truth is, accountability is not weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to look at yourself and say, I could have done better. It takes discipline to keep improving, even when it's easier to walk away or deflect blame. So when I say, I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me mutual respect and accountability, it's not because I want perfection, it's because I want partnership. I want someone who challenges me respectfully, who calls me out when I'm off track, and who allows me to do the same. Someone who values growth over pride and truth over comfort. Because that's how two people evolve together instead of apart. Respect is what keeps love steady. Accountability is what keeps love real. When both exist, trust becomes unshakable. You don't waste energy doubting intentions or defending egos. You use that energy to build, to create, to support, to move forward. And that's the kind of love worth waiting for, not the kind that flatters you, but the kind that refines you. The kind that doesn't just make you feel good, but makes you better. When two people come together, love might be the spark, but vision is the direction. Without a shared vision, a relationship has no compass. You can be deeply in love, completely attracted to one another, and still find yourselves lost, moving in circles, chasing comfort instead of progress. A shared purpose gives love structure. It gives the relationship gravity, something that keeps you both grounded, yet moving forward at the same time. I've learned that the greatest partnerships in life, whether in business, science, or marriage, thrive because of alignment. When both people believe in the same mission, every challenge becomes easier to face. You stop pulling against each other and start pulling together. It doesn't mean you always agree, but it means you're always heading in the same direction. That's the beauty of a shared vision. It turns two separate journeys into one powerful trajectory. When you choose a life partner, you're not just choosing a person, you're choosing a worldview. You're choosing the kind of future you want to build, the kind of energy you want to wake up next to, the kind of legacy you want to leave behind. That's why alignment is everything. You can't have one person chasing stability while the other is chasing adventure. You can't have one dreaming of growth while the other is content with mediocrity. Eventually, that imbalance pulls the relationship apart, not because of lack of love, but because of lack of vision. A shared purpose doesn't have to mean identical careers or interests. It's not about both being passionate about the same thing. It's about believing in the same values. It's about seeing life through a similar lens, how you treat people, how you handle challenges, how you define success. If one person believes success is peace and the other believes it's power, there is going to be conflict. But if both define success as contribution, growth, or impact, that's when synergy happens. That's when two people amplify each other instead of canceling each other out. When I imagine marriage, I think of it like launching a mission to another planet. The destination doesn't have to be Mars, but you better make sure you're both on the same ship, heading toward the same goal. Because if one wants to orbit Earth and the other wants to travel to the stars, someone's going to end up disappointed. You can't build a long-term partnership if your life trajectories are incompatible. You can only go so far before the difference in direction becomes unbearable. That's why communication about purpose has to happen early, before marriage, before commitment. You have to ask the deeper questions. What kind of future do you want? What matters most to you? How do you handle failure? What does fulfillment look like to you? These aren't romantic questions, they're structural ones. They determine whether your relationship will simply survive or truly thrive. Because when you share a vision, everything changes. You start supporting each other's ambitions instead of competing with them. You stop seeing your partner's dreams as distractions and start seeing them as extensions of your own. You begin to think long-term, not what do we want this weekend, but where do we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20? And when both people are aligned in that mindset, even the smallest actions feel meaningful because they're part of something bigger. A shared purpose also gives your love resilience. When life throws unexpected challenges your way, and it always will, a common vision helps you stay focused. You remind each other why you started, what you're building toward, and that it's worth fighting for. Without that shared why, it's easy to give up when things get hard. But when both of you are anchored in a deeper purpose, giving up doesn't feel like an option. You adapt, you innovate, you keep moving forward together. And it's not just about having goals, it's about evolving your vision as life changes. Growth doesn't stop after marriage. Circumstances shift, dreams expand, and new challenges appear. The key is to keep revisiting your vision together, refining it, and making sure you're still aligned. That constant communication, that shared recalibration, is what keeps the relationship alive and dynamic. So when I say I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me a shared vision and purpose, I mean I want someone who's not just living for today, but building for tomorrow. Someone who wants to contribute something meaningful to the world, who wakes up with curiosity and drive, who believes that love isn't about escaping reality, but improving it. Because in the end, love without direction burns out. But love with a mission becomes unstoppable. It becomes more than just two people trying to make each other happy. It becomes two people trying to make something happen. And that kind of partnership doesn't just survive time, it transforms it. If love is the heart of a relationship, then loyalty and trust are its bloodstream. They're what keep everything alive and flowing, even when the pulse of passion slows down. You can have all the chemistry in the world, but if you don't have trust, it's like building a rocket without fuel. It looks impressive sitting on the launch pad, but it's never going anywhere. Loyalty and trust aren't optional extras in marriage. They're the foundation. Without them, nothing else you build will stand for long. The truth is, trust takes time, but it can disappear in seconds. It's not built by grand gestures or promises. It's built by consistency. It's built in the small moments when no one's watching, when you choose honesty over comfort, when you keep your word even when it's inconvenient, when you protect your partner's name and heart as if they were your own. That's what real loyalty looks like. It's quiet, it's steady, and it doesn't need to be announced. We live in a world where loyalty often gets confused with possession. But loyalty isn't about control. It's about commitment. It's about saying, I'm with you even when things get difficult. I'm with you even when you're not at your best. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Real loyalty is tested not when everything is going right, but when everything starts falling apart. It's standing in the storm instead of running for cover. It's choosing faith over fear. And trust. Trust is the space that allows love to breathe. When you trust someone deeply, you can be your full self with them. You can share your fears, your failures, your doubts, not because you expect them to fix you, but because you know they won't use your vulnerability against you. That kind of safety is rare. It's what allows intimacy to deepen over time. Because real intimacy isn't just physical, it's emotional transparency, built on the belief that no matter what happens, your partner's on your side. But here's the hard part. Trust isn't automatic. It has to be earned and maintained. Every lie, every secret, every half-truth, it chips away at that foundation. And once trust is broken, rebuilding, it takes more than apologies. It takes consistent action, humility, and time. That's why it's so important to protect it from the beginning. Because when you lose trust, you lose peace. You start questioning motives, replaying conversations, reading between lines that were never there, and that mental noise can destroy even the strongest connection. Loyalty, in its purest form, isn't about never being tempted. It's about never being divided. It's about remembering that no external attraction, no fleeting emotion, is worth more than the person who stood by you through everything. Loyalty is a choice you make every single day, a decision to honor the bond you've built, even when it's not exciting, even when no one's keeping score. And it's not just about staying faithful in the romantic sense. Loyalty extends to how you speak about your partner when they're not around, how you defend them in public, and how you treat them in private. It's in the small acts, the ones that build quiet confidence that says, I can trust you with my heart, my flaws, my dreams. That kind of loyalty doesn't limit freedom. It amplifies it. It frees both people from fear, from doubt, from insecurity. When trust and loyalty coexist, they create stability, a kind of calm that allows both people to grow, without constantly questioning where they stand. You don't have to overanalyze texts, second-guess silences, or wonder if you're being compared to someone else. You know where you stand. And that clarity allows love to evolve beyond emotion into something unshakable. Every meaningful partnership, every lasting marriage, rests on this truth. Loyalty and trust are not byproducts of love. They're its foundation. Love might spark the connection, but loyalty keeps it burning. Trust keeps it protected. Without them, passion turns into paranoia, and closeness turns into control. But with them, even the toughest seasons become bearable, because no matter what the world throws at you, you know you have someone who won't leave, won't lie, and won't lose faith in what you've built together. So when I say I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me loyalty and trust, it's not a demand, it's a promise that I'll give the same. Because in a world full of temporary things, I want something unshakable. I want a partnership that feels like gravity, silent, constant, and impossible to break. Too many people walk into relationships trying to own what they should be building with. They confuse love with control, partnership with possession. But a real marriage, a real union, isn't about ownership. It's about collaboration. It's about two people choosing to build something together, not one person trying to shape the other into what they want. The idea that your partner belongs to you sounds romantic in a song, but in real life, it's the fastest way to destroy connection. A partnership, a true one, is rooted in freedom. It's the freedom to be yourself, to think differently, to evolve without fear of rejection. You don't clip your partner's wings. You help them fly higher. Because love isn't about making someone smaller so you can feel bigger. It's about expanding each other's capacity to dream, to take risks, to grow. The strongest relationships are the ones where both people feel safe enough to keep becoming who they're meant to be. When I think about marriage, I think about synergy, not dependency. You don't want someone who completes you. You want someone who complements you. Completion implies you were broken before. But when two whole people come together, each with their own strengths, ambitions, and identities, the combination creates something far greater than either could achieve alone. That's what partnership is. It's not you versus me. It's us versus the problem. Possession, on the other hand, is rooted in fear. Fear of losing control, fear of inadequacy, fear of being replaced. When someone tries to possess their partner, what they're really doing is trying to eliminate uncertainty. But love requires uncertainty. It requires trust. It requires allowing someone to choose you every day, not forcing them to stay. Because if someone only stays out of obligation or control, that's not love, that's captivity. And captivity always kills connection. Partnership asks a harder, more mature question. How can I help you become the best version of yourself? And how can we grow together without losing who we are individually? That's balance. That's maturity. When two people hold that mindset, love doesn't shrink under pressure. It scales. It evolves. It becomes creative instead of competitive. Think about it. The best partnerships in the world, whether in business, science, or art, thrive because each person respects the other's autonomy. They collaborate because they want to, not because they have to. Marriage should be the same. You don't build something great by controlling your teammate. You build it by trusting them, by empowering them. You celebrate their victories as your own, because their success fuels yours. In a partnership, both people bring value to the table, and that value isn't just financial or external. It's emotional, intellectual, spiritual. You push each other to think differently. You challenge each other's comfort zones, not to tear each other down, but to elevate one another. That's what keeps the relationship alive. Because the moment control enters the picture, curiosity dies. And when curiosity dies, growth stops. Real love doesn't say, "You're mine." It says, "We're ours." It doesn't demand ownership. It invites commitment. It doesn't measure how much power one person holds over the other. It measures how much trust both are willing to invest. When both people feel seen, heard, and respected, they don't need control, they have connection. They don't need dominance, they have alignment. Partnership also means taking equal responsibility for the relationship. It's not one person carrying the emotional load while the other coasts through. It's not one always fixing what the other keeps breaking. It's a shared effort, two people working as co-engineers of their future. Each person contributes in their own way, and both are accountable for what they build together. In a world that often teaches possession as proof of love, the "you're mine forever" mindset, it takes strength to love without owning. It takes courage to let your partner grow without feeling threatened by their evolution. But when you do, you unlock something far deeper than passion. You create purpose. You become a team that's unstoppable because you're no longer fighting each other, you're building together. So when I say I won't marry my future wife unless she gives me partnership, not possession, what I mean is this. I want to walk beside her, not in front of her. I want her to challenge me, not obey me. I want a marriage that feels like collaboration, not control, where freedom and loyalty coexist, where love and ambition work side by side. Because the goal of marriage isn't to own someone. It's to create something that neither of you could have built alone. And in the end, that's what love at its highest form really is. Not power over someone, but power with someone.